Welcome to a new episode of Signal Chain Stories, the podcast for musicians, artists, and creatives. And first of all, we are very, very sorry because last week there was no new episode because first I was on vacation, then Mordio was on vacation, and then we pre-recorded an episode, but the file was somehow corrupted and we couldn't upload it. Yeah, it's very sad. It was a really cool episode about AI in music, which we will definitely repeat. It's still on the list. But today we want to speak about some very exciting news for the both of us because I think our both favorite sequencer, so to say,
100%
in
my
Ableton
favorite.
Live, got a big update. Sting 2 is out. If you don't know Sting, it's a Max for Live device by a fantastic Max for Live developer called Iftar Gabay. He makes really incredible tools, and he just released the second version, so to say 2.0 of Sting, which is a generative sequencer. It is meant to be for acid, but you can use it for so many other sounds which you create with it. And yeah, it got an update. And with me, as always, is Morty, who already is pretty excited, which I can see. Right?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm super excited because Sting is literally the thing I use for everything in Ableton. Like if I need some random trigger notes, I just put Sting and don't think about it.
Yeah, perfect. It's same for me because sometimes you just need a bass line or an arpeggiator, and it's really cool for that. And actually, the second version for me, as kind of like a more melodic person, is even more usable because it got some really cool new features that make it also more usable for melodic stuff, which also got me pretty exciting.
I think we have to make clear that like you already got some time played with it. I just downloaded it now, and I want to have my first session after this podcast recording.
Awesome.
So I know everything from Sting from the past and all the other Stings that are out there in the internet. I tried them all, I think. I always came back to the original. I also always used like the old version for a long time from 2020 or something. I don't remember. And yeah, then the classic one, I think that everyone now knows and loves. I used in all my videos, I would say. And from this, I would say there's not so much big changes from the concept itself, right? So
No,
I think I can talk about it quite well. But you already tried the new function. I'm really excited that you can tell me a little bit about this new algorithm versions because like I said, I like techno. In techno, you need most of the time arpeggiator sequencers, right? So it's sequencer music. But what I also got many times was like, so now I have cool bass lines, cool patterns, cool tom rhythms that making cool stuff. And that was Sting perfect for. But now I want something that have a little bit more variation in the highs, mids, and like, get some melody going on, totally for the bleep loops. And now I was using always from Force Dyad for that. Because the sequencer there is a little bit more controllable for that. So I would love that you tell me a little bit about this melodic thing that you're telling me that the algorithm is more melodic, people say now.
Yeah.
What is it about
definitely. Yeah, so maybe just a quick recap for all the people who don't know Sting. I mean, you probably kind of like explained it, but the interface is still the same. So you have kind of like you can choose the different sound shapes, so to say. Then you can choose the density, which means how many notes are in there. And then you can choose how long your sequence is. So let's say 16 steps. And then you just have a big smiley in the middle that you can click, and it will, every time you click, generate you a different sequence. And this still works for Sting 2. You can just do that. I mean, if you load it for the first time, it looks pretty similar to the first version, but it has some pretty cool new stuff that is going on under the hood and gives you more control and more modulation, which is something you will absolutely love. So I know you get excited when I say modulation. But first, I think the first big change is that the new Sting has a new algorithm. So the first Sting, and this is also what Iftar said in his introduction video, the first Sting was really made for acid bass lines and for acid lines in general on synthesizers. And now he created a second algorithm, and you can basically choose or switch between the two algorithms. very easily in the interface. And the second algorithm is a little bit more melodic. So it still does techno, but especially when you use it, for example, with a scale device that quantizes your notes to a specific scale, and you choose something like Dorian, you can also get some really cool results for melodic techno. So yeah, it's a little bit dreamy, it's a little bit dark, a little bit moody, and yeah, I think you could use that very well for melodic techno. And one of the big news now that you have is that actually there is an icon you can click and it opens a completely new window. And in this window, you have now the notes that are actually played in the sequencer. So you can see all the notes as you have in the sequence. And the cool thing is you can also move them around. So if you're in the note editor, you can just shift the notes around. And this way it gives you way more concrete ways how you can interact as a human and change the sequence that is playing. So you don't have to bounce it to MIDI notes to edit it, which
That's
is
what I did
really
before
cool.
always. Yeah, I remember
same.
I loved Sting for the reliability that you can say I can get the clip, and then when I open the project again, there will be nothing gone. I have the MIDI clip, but also to just like get the clip, change one of the notes, and use that sequence or something. I would think it was always a no-brainer. But now you can do it inside the tool.
Exactly. You can do it directly inside of the tool. And of course, you can still, what you currently have, you can still export that as a MIDI clip and it will automatically show as before, which is still super handy. But yeah, now you can do all the editing and stuff inside the tool and then just export the MIDI file when you're ready. But yeah, it doesn't stop there. So now you also have options on the playhead, how it moves. So you can basically say the playhead goes just from the beginning of the bar or of the sequence to the end of the sequence. You could say it goes reverse, so it goes from the end to the beginning, or you can say it goes in ping pong mode. So the sequence runs forth and then just back and all the time back. And I already experimented around with this, and you can create some really nice stuff with that.
You get longer sequences than with that.
Exactly. Okay. You get longer sequences, and still it sounds kind of like as if it's the same. But then if you play around also with the step length, you still can get your kind of like uneven, a little bit polymetric sequences, which is extremely fun. And
what makes the sequence even longer in the feeling, I would say. I mean, it's not longer, but
yeah,
nice.
Definitely, and that's a cool thing. Then the other cool thing, which I really liked, is now that you have a huge tab for modulation. So you can now basically modulate everything directly in the device. So it's very easy. You just have a percentage, and it kind of like gives you a little bit of a, I would say it looks a little bit for now from the first side like a sine wave LFO, but you can just go in there and say, I want like 20% modulation on, let's say, the density, which I use to create some really cool results, because your sequence stays the same, but sometimes notes are added, sometimes notes are a little bit removed. And it makes it like very lively, because the core of your sequence is the same, but it's always changing and evolving and keeps it interesting. And you can do that extremely easily. You can do the same for the I don't know what this parameter is actually called. When you have it on the left side and it's called random, on the right side it's called acid. It's kind of like, I would say, the type of the sequence, like how it sounds.
I think it was also a type of the algorithms, how the notes are generated. For the more acid vibes, I think it was more like you getting like a static note playing like constantly a D, and then sometimes one G, like beep, beep, you know? And when you go more to the left, it was more like all over the place. That's why I'm a little bit like interested in this like version change now, because when the version 2 is now like, you know, where's the difference? That's what I want to figure out now. Like why it's more melodic now, because before you could make it more melodic, you just have to find a nice sweet spot and hit that smiley many times.
I mean, now it's basically the same, and it generates the sweet spot. I mean, it's easier to create the sweet spot because you can also change the notes and have some variations to it. And I found that especially with the version 2, like the new algorithm, the notes in general that are generated are not so much as you said, like where you have a lot of time, the D coming and then there's a G in between, but it's really like also generating, complete arpeggiatic sequences, so to say. So where you go also in the pentatonic that you're in a little bit higher and lower, and you really have a lot of more variation in that, which I think is super cool and really nice to do. And if you use it then with the modulation, you get some even more crazy and unexpected results. Another thing you can modulate, which I think is awesome, is you can switch on that every sequence automatically you kind of like the smiley gets pushed. So you get a completely new sequence every time the sequence runs through. And the cool thing is you can also say when that should happen. So if it only happens after one time, but you can also say it should happen every 5 times
bars.
or every 16 times or every whenever, so to say.
Oh my
so
God, this is a game changer.
It really is.
This is literally a game changer, because now if you like have this and then all 16 bars, for example, it changed the sequence. That's your arrangement modulation. I always separate modulation between like modulation for like sound design and then modulation for arrangement modulation, right? And this is absolutely perfect for arrangement modulation, because you kind of get more clips, new clips that you can kind of build just by playing the thing. Wow, this is sick.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is pretty insane. And yeah, I think that is great. Then I have to say, honestly, I didn't go super deep into the modulation stuff, but what I could see, so for example, Sting now also, and this is crazy, Sting reacts to MIDI notes. So if you play, let's say your sequence is running in C, and if you play a D on your keyboard, it will transpose the sequence to kind of like to match the new note that you're playing. And then in addition, what you can do...
when you leave it jumps back to the old one?
I think it jumps back to the... I haven't tried that, I have to say.
That would be good for live acts.
Yeah, definitely. Where definitely, and I will come to that in a second, is when you do it on push. It has a complete push integration, which blew my mind.
Now
and you have kind of like
now you are hyped.
Oh yeah, a complete keyboard in the bottom where you can do exactly that. You have just a blue keyboard, and kind of like completely to the left is your root note, and then you can just play kind of like the keyboard and transpose the sequences and always go back to the initial sequence when you do that, which is insane for performance stuff. So yeah, if you then have push, which got me really excited, there you have a complete integration. So you have the push and you open Sting on it, and then you can just toggle a switch, and then the layout on push changes and reflects the layout of Sting, which actually is amazing. Then you can kind of like use the sequencers, the pads on push to set the different algorithms. You can set the different densities, but you also in the row have kind of like a keyboard where you can then play different notes, and the whole sequence that you have gets transposed and then gets back when you kind of like play the root note again. So it's for live performance, it's absolutely incredible. And I can't wait to dive into that and see how I can actually use that in the future.
How is this when like I remember Diet was also working on the push standalone, right? But it's a synthesizer with a sequencer and an overview. Yeah. When you put something in the push 3 into this like standalone mode, is it just that device, or you still have kind of channels? Because now we have just a sequencer, right?
Exactly. But you still have the control over the others. So if, and this is still a little bit of a hiccup, I have to say, sometimes it works better, sometimes not. So when you change to another channel, usually it switches then back to the normal kind of like Ableton layout that you have for your instruments, your drum racks, whatever it is. And then when you go back to the device, like for example, Diet, it switches back to that. For Sting, it's the same. So as long as you're on the Sting device, you get kind of like the view of Sting. But if you switch to your instrument, you get kind of like the normal instrument view back, which is pretty cool and very handy. Sometimes, as I said, the switch doesn't work seamlessly. And I think Ableton are aware of this issue and they're working on it. But yeah, again, this opens up so many new possibilities, how you can actually play Sting, how you can integrate it like as a real instrument in a live setup for generative sequencing. A little bit as if you would put your torso T1 or your the other sequencer, the Oxy one, for example, also a great sequencer, as if you put that on on the push, which is, I think, pretty dope.
Wow. Now I'm excited because this is a lot. I didn't know about the modulation at all. And I will go really deep into that, I think, because what I did is always modulating, like Sting. From, I would say, the density is absolutely a knob. I constantly modulate it to just get like the idea of feeling it's a long sequence, but actually it's just an eight step sequencer or something that
exactly.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And now it's inside there. You have 20%, and you can change the shapes of the modulation.
I haven't seen that, but as I said, in the modulation tab, I just did a very, very brief overview. I was a little bit lost in jamming on my push and kind of like sequencing or transposing my sequences with the device and thinking, okay, this is fucking insane. But yeah, I think you can. I think there are 3 different modulation pages or so. So the modulation is really deep.
Wow, okay.
And also what you can set up, as I said, that you can play MIDI notes and this way affect the sequence. You can also say, okay, I want my aftertouch, for example. If you have a keyboard with aftertouch, you can say the aftertouch should affect the density. So you press your note very softly, or the velocity should affect the density. So you press your note very loosely, and then the density is low, and then you increase the pressure, and then the density goes up and more notes will be played.
That's amazing for live.
Yeah, that's super cool for live performance. I love it.
Cool. Okay, I see it. Wow, there's a lot of new things. I was thinking it's just an update, maybe more stable, maybe more whatever. I don't know.
No, it's like a new device. And the cool thing is, I think what IFTA did really great is when you know Sting 1, you open Sting 2 and it looks exactly the same, and you're like, okay, I feel right at home. I have my controls here, some more controls on the bottom where you can say how your sequence is running and stuff like that. You can also now control the gate. I don't think that was possible before.
Oh, no, that was possible before.
Oh, that was possible.
Yeah,
okay.
The gate lengths, right?
Yeah, exactly. The gate length.
You can make that before, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's still in there, but kind of like the way the sequence works is now new. But then if you click kind of like this arrow icon and open the new window, you're like, okay, this now opens really complete new world. And this is what I really love. So kind of like you took what already worked great and you can still use it like the old one, switch between the different algorithms if you want to generate more different results. But if you then click the arrow and really go deep into the device, you see how many modulation options you have, how you can also yourself shape the sequences and change them. And I think, yeah, this is just really amazing.
Cool. Okay, and I have one question. I know you didn't went so deep now, but like just from a feeling, okay? I want that you explain me from a feeling what you would say is the difference between version 1 and version 2 when you switch between from the sequences that you get when you randomize the smiley.
I would say if you go for like the version 1 algorithm, it's completely the same. I think they also, I think you mentioned that in the video, they work the exact same way, so I didn't feel a big difference there. The version 2 algorithm, if you play around with the style and with the density, you can generate some more melodic results. I found really cool for melodic music.
You would say, because the MIDI notes are like, they never jumped. Like when I generate with Sting before, I would say it stays in like, in this like acid line kind of vibe. So you have this like static 2 notes, maybe do, and then one that comes out like that is like 2 octaves higher, like beep. So it stays really techno because you get this like right? And now you would say when you go on version 2, you get much more like harmonic, like steps, like or something.
Yeah, you have to tweak it a little bit. I mean, it's still acid, and really depends where you kind of like put the style. So if you put it all the way to the right, where it's completely on acid, then you also get your acid sequences, maybe a little bit more melodic. Exactly. But the cool thing is now you also have the option to say, okay, put it a little bit more to the left, play with the density, play with the style, and
then on version 2 with the random algorithm on top, you will get much more melodic. Okay.
Exactly. I had the feeling you get some more, as you said, some more higher notes also inside of a pentatonic. Sometimes it jumps to an octave, sometimes it's somewhere in between. And then if you use a scale device with that, you get some amazing, cool results. And then if you also then start to shape the sequence yourself and let it run kind of like from the front to back and then back to front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see myself also producing.
I was always switching between Snake and Sting because of this function, and now it's in one. So I'm a little bit like, oh, sorry, Snake.
Yeah. I mean, I think Snake still has its relevance also for kind of like all the modulation stuff that you can do with Snake, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, the thing with the mapping, right? The custom ones.
Yeah,
this is really cool. But I have to say, amazing. Force also, like when you get the diode, you get the module, right? And module is a step sequencer modulation that you can open and put it like on 10 different knobs. So it's actually not needed.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
And why I make Snake down, I mean, I push Snake still, like I love it, but the GUI is not changing to my color and I don't like this.
Ooh, Snake.
There's some update needed. Okay.
No, but definitely. I mean, for Sting, you will be right at home. Nice. I will feel. I mean, for me, also as a Sting 1 power user, I found Sting 2 very intuitive, and then all the new functions just make sense and open new worlds to you. So especially with the modulation, which I also plan to dive in deeper, you will have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I think I will lose myself in the modulation, like you will lose yourself in the push.
Oh yeah, I will, and I look forward to that.
Oh wow, man! Thanks for the update. That was
really cool. Yeah, definitely. I was really excited actually when I saw the update, and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to get this."
Yeah, I saw it literally yesterday night on YouTube or something. I was like, "Wait, what?" And then everyone in my community was posting it on Discord, and I was like, "Oh wow."
Yeah, in my as well. Like people saying, "What's going on there? That's super cool." So yeah, can't wait to dive in deeper, and I think you can really make some amazing music with that. So yeah, looking forward to using it.
My God, I'm excited. Yeah, I already downloaded it, so let's see.
You will have a good session now. I'm very sure you will.
Okay, then let's wrap it up. I want to play with this tool now. And
go for it.
For everyone else, if you have some question, if you have people that we should invite and have a talk with, if you have, I don't know, any question about Sting or whatever, put it in the comments. And we are, back soon.
Yeah, we're here to answer them. And yeah, we'll definitely from now on see you again every 2 weeks. Sorry again for the interruption, but we are back and more pumped than ever. So seeing you soon and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.